Hello everybody and welcome to this week's edition of This Ain't Fake Brother. We've got a very special weekend show lined up for you here. It's the 6th of December 2014 and I'm joined in studio by The Hammer.
The Hammer!
You're here.
I am. I've arrived.
Now it's unfortunate that we played these promos, you know, it got really hot and then there was obviously some contractual issues that prevented you from debuting at, you know, the right time. Imagine if those Taz vignettes and he debuted at Mania instead.
That's it. Or even if like it was all those Taz vignettes and the Brooklyn Brawler made a comeback.
Yeah, it wouldn't...
New York crowd would have popped.
They probably would have. He would have said they would have anyway.
Definitely. Well, it would have been a bigger pop than you get from patting the back. You know?
Thank you, Hammer. So, Hammer's name is Shaun. A lot of you probably know this man. And thanks very much for filling in for Ken this week.
I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah. So, tell us about yourself, Shaun, for those of you who don't know. What do you do?
I do the film things.
Yeah, now, I just wanted to ask you a question about that first off. So, you obviously developed these in The Chemist, the 1 hour thing, but you're not in fact a chemist. So, do you have any anecdotes about when people come in to get their film developed and you have to say, actually, I can't tell you if it's Alpadine or paracetamol?
No. I don't work in a chemist, so...
But, really?
Yeah.
So you don't develop film?
No, I don't develop physical film, just digital.
That doesn't really need to be developed, though, does it?
Just the ideas.
So what do you do then, Shaun?
Just to...
I feel like I don't know you, man. Shaun is a very good filmmaker. He's a very successful filmmaker. You've done a lot of videos for up-and-coming musical acts.
Yeah, a lot of music videos.
You had great success with your first feature film, Limp. It got a plethora of press. It got into loads of different festivals. What was the name of the Underground Film Board?
Yeah, there's the Underground Cinema Film Festival. And we've gotten into
they just loved it. They went mad about it.
Yeah, there's one in Seattle. And then we had the Indie Cork Film Festivals where we debuted. Excellent.
And you're working currently on your second feature. What can you tell us about that?
It's filthy stuff.
Is it called Filthy Stuff?
It's about two British Redcoat soldiers in pre-Italia 90 Ireland, going around raping, pillaging and doing all that sort of stuff. And basically it's like Dances with Wolves with aliens. There's
an alien element.
Yeah, there's aliens definitely involved in it.
That's all you can really say.
Yeah, that's it. It's like under wraps now at the moment.
And when do you think that we'll be able to see the film?
We're hoping to have like festivals in the summer and stuff. That's the plan. And
does it have a title at the moment?
The Legend of Harry and Ambrose.
Great, there you go. Yeah. Where can people see your videos? What's your username on Vimeo?
I think it's El Calvo.
Is it still El Calvo?
I think so.
Great. Well, look, when I post the show, you can plug your own little link underneath it.
You're a beautiful man.
Listen,
you're a beautiful man.
This is radio, so they're going to have to take your word for it. Okay, so myself and Shaun have... we're pretty much going to do the same layout that myself and Ken would do, except we have no classic review. And this is unfortunate because when myself and Shaun agreed to do the show together, Shaun had actually picked a classic review.
Yeah.
Sin. WCW Sin.
Such a pity.
Yeah, we both got a bit through it and Shaun had a hard time getting it because he doesn't have the network. Brings me on to a question. Why don't you have the network?
I wanted to wait till I could actually get it properly as opposed to...
Do you want to go through hoops?
The rigmarole, yeah. Because I don't really... Like, I watch all the... Say, the package shows that they do, like the Countdown and then like the Monday Night Wars stuff and all that, but I don't think I'd be going back and watching matches and that sort of stuff for it.
Sure, and you get them via nefarious means at the moment, so there's not much of a push.
Like there's a website, it's watchwrestling.net, and that has all the new network shows and stuff, so that's all I'd really watch on it anyway.
And thankfully, it also has the Austin and McMahon podcast from this week, which we'll be covering. Yeah. So that's part of our podcast review. We're also going to do Raw, and we're going to talk about all the news. So just one more little personality profile before we do, Shaun. You look, you look a little embarrassed. Do you not want to talk about yourself?
No, I'm here. I'm loud. I'm proud.
You're loud. You're proud.
Yeah.
Tell me about you when you became a wrestling fan.
When I became a wrestling fan, I think I've been a wrestling fan as long as I can remember.
Excellent.
And even like before I can remember, I can see like photos of myself in like Ultimate Warrior t-shirts and Macho Man t-shirts and stuff like that. So
me and you kind of started watching around the same time.
Yeah.
You know, there's a funny story actually myself and Ken never told, that when we all became friends in our early teens, really, and we all come from Portmarnock, a sleepy seaside village, as my fiance would say, and myself, yourself, Noel, who actually gets referenced on the show, and Ken, we would always go to Exhibition Portmarnock where they had 2 videos. What were the 2 videos they had?
SummerSlam 91, was it? SummerSlam
Absolutely.
91?
It was SummerSlam 91. It was SummerSlam 1990 and WrestleMania 1990. WrestleMania 6.
Yeah.
And we've pretty much been able to work out that for the majority of the time that the videos weren't available, one of us had them.
Yeah.
Which is just brilliant, you know? So you kind of, we all started watching at the same time.
Yeah.
And obviously we can kind of remember watching them on video rather than live. My first memory of watching wrestling is actually seeing highlights of Warrior and Hogan on Sky One.
Yeah.
But when we first got Sky One, but that's great. So obviously you're going to be able to give a bit of insight, and I don't think you're as jaded as Ken, which will be a different dynamic.
Well, with today's product, I think it's like the pits mostly. You know, I do think that there's a load of good wrestlers on the roster now, and especially in NXT and stuff, that if they're given the chance or whatever to come up and do it, but I think they'd have to completely change what the product is.
Sure.
The way they gear it, I think, like, say, the idea that they're hiring all these like athletes, pretty much, you know, like that they do fantastic things in the ring. If they're not promoting it as a more of a sports based product, I think if they try keep up with that sort of like early 90s, like Hulk Hogan era sort of cartoonish sort of stuff, like you heard Steve Austin talking about like Bray Wyatt's merchandise and stuff like that.
Yes.
Like, that it's sort of cartoony rather than being something scary.
Yes.
So I think they'd need to sort of gear more towards a like UFC audience, which they're definitely not going to.
No, and an interesting note on that is, you know, I could be dead wrong, but when we look at NXT and we look at people that we're excited to come up, like Kevin Steen, Devitt, Kenta, Sami Zayn, Adrian Neville, only Kevin Steen can do the 15-minute Raw Open promo.
Yeah.
So if these guys are going to come in with any sort of impact, when
Sami Zayn seems good on the mic though, doesn't he?
Do you think he could carry 15 minutes?
I don't know. It depends on what sort of role he comes in on, because I think he could be that sort of John Cena, sort of funny, friendly guy type character.
Sure. I think he'd be a lot more genuine as well.
Yeah,
He is very genuine. And we'll talk about that when we do the podcast
sort of
review.
Seth Rogen face as well.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get some news going here. So Brock Lesnar was pulled from the Slammies. They had advertised him for weeks to be on that show. Paul Heyman did an inset from Connecticut on Monday's Raw, which he was scheduled to do in order to promote Lesnar's appearance. But obviously that's been changed now. So, I don't know. I think you know, the Slammies for me, everyone says Royal Rumble time, but the Slammies for me is actually when the road to WrestleMania really begins, because they put so much into that show usually.
I suppose, and you can always look back then to Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker.
The way they started the build.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Would you have had Brock on this show, or...
I think it's right to... Well, that's after TLC, is it, the Slammies, or...
No, it's next week.
No, then, like, I'd hold him off till after TLC if he wasn't going to be a part of TLC.
It does make sense. Taker versus Brock has been rumoured for Mania by
Really?
The Observer.
I didn't read that.
Okay, so the I don't know if Meltz was like kind of fancy booking or not, but one idea would be that whether or not they have Cena go over, they've Cena lose his opportunity by losing to Seth, or they have somebody cash in or something, or Taker even actually interfering with their lights flickering.
Yeah.
People are saying maybe because they don't know if Brock is going to resign, that they get the belt off him at Rumble, and they just go to him in Taker Part 2 and advertise as Taker's retirement match revenge.
I can't imagine that they'll let Taker in the ring with Brock again.
I would tend to agree.
The physical match that they'd have to have, I don't think Taker's capable of. And I'd say if Taker... I don't even know who Taker would be working back. Like Sting, I think that's the only match.
Yeah, it's kind of sad because like it seems they have a direction with Hunter and Sting. So it'd be really sad to see Sting and Taker on the same Mania card.
Yeah, definitely.
Without facing each other. Okay.
It's just how you get into that if they're both faces then as well. And I definitely think that WWE audience would accept Taker a lot more than Sting.
That's very true.
That's splitting the audience like that.
Another note on Brock finally is that his last date is not in fact WrestleMania. It's the Raw.
Yeah, after. Which I'd imagine, say, if they're trying to get out of a rematch clause, they might put Roman and him again on the Raw the night after, so more people see Roman Reigns beat him.
That's an interesting one. Can you remember any WrestleMania main events that were on the Raw after? Have they done that? You know what? I'd be surprised if they haven't. I know they did Shaun and Cena 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
Rock and Austin never did one, did they?
No, I don't think so.
They definitely didn't do it after 17, but I'm wondering, did they do it after 15? Well, they fought a Backlash that year, so I'd say probably not. Let's think. No, I don't know. But that would be interesting.
But yeah, and they seem to be making a much bigger deal, like, as it goes on, of the Raw after WrestleMania.
Yeah, let me tell you a story about that. So this is my 5th Mania. I've never had trouble getting Raw tickets. In fact, it's something that's really become a thing since I started going. My first WrestleMania was 25 in 2009. I bought Raw tickets when we went to the Hall of Fame, because in the same arena. I went to the box office and just bought Raw tickets. Now, maybe that was foolish on my part, because I was, new to the whole game, and maybe I should have booked them beforehand. But the point is, the pre-sale was on Wednesday. It was impossible to get tickets. Last night, the tickets went on sale at 6. So I'm off work at 5:30 with a half an hour commute. I fucking almost broke my neck, and probably several other pedestrians' necks, trying to get home on time. By 8:30, I'd still not even seen a ticket.
Yeah.
Constant queues on Ticketmaster, unbelievable. And I just said, fuck it. And I literally went on to StubHub and paid an extra $35 per ticket.
Jesus.
Just got them.
Yeah.
But it's become such a bigger thing. And I think with WrestleMania being so cheap now, and people maybe not feeling pay-per-views are exciting as they used to be, not trying to take anything away from WrestleMania, but the Raw after, I can honestly say, I did see 2 stinker WrestleManias. I did see 25 and 27. They had amazing matches on them, thanks to The Undertaker.
Yeah.
But as a whole, they go down as bad Manias, right?
Yeah.
So for me, consistently, the best night of the year has always been Raw. And as well, you've got the most hardcore out of the most hardcore. So you've got the people who go to Mania, which are the most hardcore, and then like, an eighth of those people go to Raw.
Yeah.
So the atmosphere of Raw is like nothing else. I can tell
Definitely,
you.
but I think even, like, say, like, no matter, like, with the sort of open-air stadium things or whatever like that, the sound is always lost, because from watching, I was at 26. And
that's a weird one though, Sean, because you had sometimes had the roof closed and sometimes had it open.
Yeah.
Now, so that's probably the best case in point for that. Was there a noticeable difference when it was open compared to closed?
Because I couldn't tell, say, in regards when I was looking back afterwards, there was parts, I can't pick them out now, but like there was parts that I definitely noticed in my section there would have been chants and stuff like that the camera wouldn't have even picked up on, that things that I thought were
absolutely
apparently going to translate well to telly or whatever like that just didn't come across at all.
Like the loud, I've been at 3 indoor, 1 outdoor, and the loudest pop I think I've ever heard at Mania was either Bryan winning or a 30 or Hunter Tombstone or Taker kicking out the Tombstone at 27. But that was it. They were indoor. I remember at 28, I was at the very back of the arena. So, for instance, if I was to look forward and down, I'd see the back of the commentators.
Yeah.
But I was on the second tier. So I was like, it's pretty much as far away from the entrance, but looking at it, if that makes sense. So pretend you're looking at the entrance and you just look to your left and that section on the second tier, right?
Yeah.
So up kind of in the nosebleeds area. I could see that full section doing something. I could not hear it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is insane.
Yeah.
And this year is outdoors. So you went to 26. So speaking of the post-Mania Raw, you saw Shaun's retirement speech.
And I saw Triple H doing a super kick, I think.
Who did he super kick?
I can't remember. I think he was feuding with Sheamus at the time.
Ah.
So I think it might have been.
And was this after the show, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it a terrible super kick?
No, it was all right.
Okay, cool. On Jeopardy this week, the question was, what is to grapple? The answer is like Kevin Nash or CM Punk. Did you see this?
No.
The 2 wrestlers they picked were Kevin Nash and CM Punk.
On Jeopardy?
On Jeopardy.
Were they on together?
No. It's in the answer.
Okay.
What is to grapple?
Yeah.
And then the example was like Kevin Nash or CM Punk.
What's that?
Some lunatic writing the questions for Jeopardy is what that is. WWE had a Cyber Monday sale, which has become very popular for most big companies across the world, the Monday after Black Friday. Did you hear what sold the most?
No.
Dean Ambrose hoodie.
Really?
No.
With the anarchy type thing,
exactly,
isn't it? Yeah.
Do you think that's like, that's such a big deal to them? Now, Punk goes on and has gone on about how he outsold Cena and it didn't mean anything, but that's a good sign, isn't it?
I don't know, because like in Punk's podcast, we'll probably go into it later or whatever, they did the they were talking to him about, was he working like a house show, or was it working the 3-on-1 against the Shield, and they were kept on coming up to him and talking about, you have to make Roman look really strong.
That's right.
Like, I think just complete tunnel vision, I think, you know?
Yeah.
With him. That's it. That's their lad, and that's the decision they've made, and they'll do everything to get him over now. Just like John Cena.
I guess I'm not saying, like, is he going to get the spot at Mania, but, something better than Bray Wyatt. Or, like, he's just not as featured as he was last month, I guess, and I think that a lot of people are disenchanted by that.
Definitely, and I love Dean Ambrose, but I do think that he still needs a lot of work. I think, like, his mic skills are... Like, I do think he has the ability to deliver great promos, because I've seen him deliver great promos. But overall, like, I think being there, I think there's an awful lot of pressure on him to push it as hard as he can, and it really comes across that he's trying too hard a lot of the time, I think.
Yeah. Rather
than it naturally flowing. The scream and stuff that he's doing, he's getting overexcited and throwing the mic down, realising that he still has more lines left to deliver and having to pick the microphone back up.
You don't think that could be intentional?
I just think if it is intentional, the crowd isn't getting it.
I'm
not getting it.
Yeah, that's a ridiculously good point. No, that's true. Speaking of Shield members being good on the mic, an age-old debate on this show is Seth Rollins good on the mic?
Yes.
Now let's not talk. Okay, well, first off, thank you, because like Ken's out of his mind, but like he's actually like literally getting better every week.
Yeah,
the man had to talk for 20 minutes at the start of the Raw, and it was a god awful segment.
Yeah,
but
I thought he was the only thing sort of keeping that in some way decent,
because Cena was literally taking the piss.
And then when Cena decided that he was going to put effort into it or whatever like that, and was trying to change gears, he started falling on his arse.
Yeah, Cena's been doing that, man. I think he's gotten to the point now where he's just been doing it so much that I think he doesn't ever think about it too much anymore. I think he just does it.
I think he definitely knew what his decisions were, though, with, say, I'm going to be doing the jokes thing for a while, and then it's going to be easy to segue into the fucking, I'm serious now type thing,
He does that a lot. But you even remember the promo before Survivor Series, where he started going through how the team was going to be eliminated, and he's sitting down, and Triple H pretended to fall asleep on the turnbuckle, and he was like, then Mark Henry, you'll be pinned. I was just like, this is like, if I was a kid, I'd have to just be an idiot.
Yeah, but I don't understand how they think that the show is entertaining a lot of the times,
Okay, let's wait till Raw, I suppose. I've gone into too much, I apologise. So, basically, Front Row Brian. Have you ever heard this guy?
What?
Front Row Brian on Twitter.
No.
Okay, myself and Ken mentioned him on the MMA show, 103.2 FM, at Sundays at 4 o'clock. But he is a lad who has a lot of sources in the world of Twitter. He talks about wrestling too. And UFC were supposed to make a big announcement a couple of weeks ago, and for those of you who don't like MMA, I'll make this very quick. They weren't able to make the announcement, said it wasn't finished yet. So Front Row Brian said, you know what, it actually had something to do with CM Punk and the contract wasn't signed.
No way.
Okay?
No way.
Now UFC has since made the announcement, and it's about Reebok being a sponsor, and there's going to actually be fighter uniforms that are worn at press conferences that have specific sponsors for everybody.
Yeah.
Which is actually something that Brock Lesnar will hate, because he'll want to get as much money as he can.
Yeah.
Not just a piece of the pie. So there's a little aside there.
Do you reckon that will push him towards
Bellator?
Yeah.
I don't know, but the Observer reported that there is smoke to this fire, and that UFC and Bellator are interested in Punk. Now, publicly, Dana has said, "Look, I don't know if he's a fighter. I know
what
he does.
Class would he be?
I know he does jiu-jitsu. Well, let's see. He probably what would he have to cut down to 225? I presume he'd be middleweight or light heavyweight. Probably middleweight.
Yeah.
Do you think you could get down to 185? I'd take you get down to 185.
Definitely.
Yeah, but so Dana White said, I don't know if he can fight. Like, there's all these clips of him and Henner Gracie rolling around the place. So, like, he could do something like Metamoris, like judo or a BJJ competition. Yeah. 20-minute time limit. It's not like he's not going to kill himself doing that. And by all accounts, he's good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
I just think he'd get fucking killed if he went in.
I can see Bellator bringing him in and putting him against somebody at his level and just using it. We were talking about this in the car.
A draw.
Yeah, on the way over. But if any of this is true, it's very interesting. But the Observer reported that there's smoke to the fire, that Bellator and UFC are interested in him. And I think in terms of him actually fighting, Bellator are the wacky company, so they'll bring him in.
But he looks like such a weak striker. I think he'd get maimed in a fight.
We've never seen him fight.
Yeah, but just his body movements, he's very flaily, I think.
Well, don't call him Phil or he'll punch you in the throat. Dave Bautista has been unveiled as Oddjob Part 2 for James Bond. Well, he's not actually Oddjob, but he is. He's the head of the muscle.
That makes sense.
He's not from the Orient, but he's going to be in this new. What's it called? Spectre.
Yeah, I think I only seen a poster for it.
That's just huge for him, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And he seems to be sort of like going from strength to strength.
Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely move up, because Guardians of the Galaxy exceeded expectations. So, but at the same time, as a franchise, obviously, there's nothing on Bond.
Yeah, well, as long as he sort of gets dialogue in it or whatever, if they just have him in Bond as like a muscle man, that's something like.
That's a step back, sure.
Yeah, that's like fucking Kevin Nash as fucking Shredder or something like that. It doesn't matter who it is, it's just a big fucker.
That's very true. At least he won't be under a hood, though. So there's that in his favour. Okay, and finally, we're going to get to. Big Boss Man Behaving Badly tribute segment. 2 people are in trouble with the law, my friend. Heath Slater.
Yeah.
Heath Slater had an incident with a woman in a hotel at WrestleMania 27 where supposedly he pulled her into the elevator to try to get her up to the room, and she had to fight to get rid of her. And she's been trying to get this warrant for years. This was 2011. But now the warrant has been issued. And on the Wrestling Observer, they have somebody called Tom Martin on. And he actually just happens to be a lawyer. So he was able to inform all of us who aren't educated in the American legal system that in order for that to happen, you have to have new evidence. Basically, you have to have something substantial to bring an old case to light and then get the warrant. So something's come up. Is he in big trouble?
I don't, unless they have some sort of security footage to show him putting her in a chokehold and dragging her up on an elevator. I don't think.
That's very true.
Because for it to be this long down the road for it to come anywhere, I think it's crazy. But she had said something about it being like her bosses or whatever not letting her bring it forward, or saying that they were going to deal with it and they didn't deal with it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I met Heath Slater at WrestleMania 27. Not the night.
No. Sorry.
I was there. I was in the hotel that night, though. I was in the hotel that night in the bar drinking next to Sergeant Slaughter with Harley Race behind me.
You should come forward as a witness.
I should say I saw it. I'd say Heath's absolutely grand, lads. And if you don't believe me, go ask Titus. But he came up to me at this thing called WrestleMania Art that we went to in order to just. It was very low key. It was a charity event, and you bought tickets through the charity website that's based in Atlanta. So we just did it on the complete schly, hoping that it would be what it was, or what we hoped it would be, which it turned out being, which is art on display, people walking around going, oh, look at that, that's this much. And then just for the sake of PR, all these wrestlers walking around.
Looking at the art as well.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
That's where I got to meet Brian.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't have as much of an experience with Brian as you did, but he's literally the nicest man in the world. You can tell us more about that later.
Yeah.
But Heath Slater was different to all of the others, because he came up to me. He goes, you remind me of a young Michael Hayes. And I was just like, I love you, mate. Teddy Hart, also in trouble with the law. He's been behaving
badly.
When is
he not, though? When is he not?
This is serious, Sean.
He had locked 2 women up in his gaff or something like that. He fritzled them.
This is the 3rd podcast in a row the fritzel's been mentioned on. He's in big trouble, isn't he?
Yeah. But I think it's just constant with him, though, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. Did I tell you about? I really don't mean to go on about this, and it's just this isn't because you're and Ken's not here, but this is just amazing that these 2 people are in the news. Did I tell you about meeting Teddy Hart this year?
No.
Okay, so I was. I love having a cigarette when I drink, and my favorite cigarettes are Camel Pink No. 9s. Yeah. And we were in New Orleans a few days for 30. I couldn't find them anywhere, so I saw this kind of corner shop that was owned by Asian people. It's very big, and I was like, they'll probably have it here. That's just that kind of place that would have a bigger tobacco section. People from the Orient. So I went in, and sure enough, they had them. So I was already in a jolly mood, and as I was walking out, all I saw was silver sequins moving in a big mass, and I was like, what the fuck? I was Teddy Hart, literally wearing a silver sequins.
The ghost of the Macho Man.
It probably crossed my mind. But he was in full gimmick, Sean. The only thing he didn't have was one of his cats. And he was there in his silver pants and his silver topless waistcoat. And I literally, as I was turning, he turned into me. I just went, hi, Teddy. I hope you have a great weekend. And he looked so happy.
That's lovely.
I wasn't bothering for a picture. I wasn't trying to. I literally. But I was maybe a little bit scooped from the night before, because I smacked him on the shoulder. And then I remembered as I was walking out of the store that he's a lunatic. So I turned around because I thought he was going to kill me. But yeah, I literally went, "Oh, have a great weekend." I was like, "Why would I touch this, man?" There you go.
That's nice.
He could have fucking locked me up as
exactly.
Well. All right. Do you want
got off lucky.
Do you want to do Raw?
Yeah.
We're sharing these stories now. We might as well.
Yeah.
We might as well talk about your time in Japan and the Daniel Bryan thing. I want you.
Yeah,
I haven't heard this in years.
So I think I'd gotten tickets at ROH where they had their shows in Tokyo. I can't remember when it would have been.
It was it the first time you went over? Well, you've only over once.
The second.
Sorry, you were over second time you went over?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was like 2006 maybe or something. It was when Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Bryan were fighting and feuding over in ROH for ROH.
The first time you went over was 2008.
Yeah, I think it was 2000. I'm not sure.
Down.
Yeah. But so because I'm an idiot, I went a day early to the to the venue, to the show, and I walked.
It's that time difference, man. Hogan had tremendous trouble with the same thing.
And so I went in, and Daniel Bryan and the Japanese, your man with the big afro, and he's always accused of kicking people in the face.
And he is Japanese.
Yeah.
And he has an afro.
Yeah, Kanemaru or something like that. But anyway, Daniel Bryan was there with, I thought it was Roderick Strong, and I'm so thankful I didn't say his name, because it was Eddie Edwards. And they looked the exact same.
Hey, look, listen. That's a regular criticism. Go on.
But he was absolutely lovely to me. Absolutely, like, chatting and just sort of wanted to know what I was doing there. And I was talking to him about, I think it was Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho were having the feud at the time with the detached retina. Yeah, detached retina.
That a boy.
And I was talking to him because I think the same thing had happened to him with Takeshi Morishima before that. It was like around the same time.
You're absolutely right, yeah.
And I had asked him if he had seen it or what his thoughts on it were. He was saying he didn't even have cable or whatever to watch it, but it sounded like they were ripping off what had happened to him. But and then because I was the only sort of I think there was probably 2 or 3 like Western people there at the shows. There was like all these meet and greets, and the next day I went to the meet and greet, and he had came out all the rest beforehand, and he came over and started talking to me again just to see how I was doing, if it was the right day now to be there or whatever. And then I met Jimmy Jacobs and Seth Rollins or whatever were there as well.
Oh.
And they were given out because ROH had forgotten to bring their tag titles with them to the show as well. So I got to meet all the lads though, like all Austin Aries and.
Were they all nice?
Yeah, Austin Aries was.
Now you see, this is why I asked were they all nice.
He was. What was he saying to me? I thought I was Irish, and then he started doing that usual American thing of talking about him having Irish family or coming from Irish descent.
Hold up. As far as Austin Aries goes, I take that.
Really?
Yeah, because he's supposedly he's got his moments,
Yeah.
And if all he's doing is going,
that was my only experience with him. I was like,
at least he was engaging you in this.
Yeah, way. I know.
Still talking about.
I just thought he was trying too hard.
Just take that. He just want to be your mate.
I know, and I don't know Austin Aries.
Now you do.
Now I do, and I'm not sure I'm going back for seconds.
And did you go out for a bite to eat with them?
No, they were going to get lunch. It was him and Eddie Edwards.
Sure.
So I just walked them with them for a while.
Was Brian the most personable, would you say?
Yeah, well, I didn't know who the fuck, if it was Roderick Strong or who it was that he was with. So I had nothing to say to him. And Davey Richards as well. Completely blank Davey Richards. Which I feel like, because I liked him probably around a month later after coming back, and I was like, shite. Because we were both standing beside each other, and it was before the show was starting, and I think he was in the opening match, and he was standing beside me at the concession stand looking to get a bottle of water so he could pour it on himself.
Oh,
when he was coming out, and I was just looking at him, then he'd be looking back at me.
What promotion was that?
ROH.
It was ROH touring Japan?
Yeah, they had I think 2 shows or 2 or 3 shows on the weekend.
That didn't happen often though, did it?
Yeah, well I met all Kerry Silken and stuff. I was talking to them for ages, and all the backstage staff and stuff like that or whatever, and they were telling me where they were going in Japan or whatever, what play they were going to, all the hooker district and stuff, and they were saying that they had been out there all the night before and stuff.
Had they been to that steakhouse, Ribera Steakhouse?
I don't know.
Did you go see any Japanese wrestling when you were in Japan?
No, actually, I missed because I used to train doing the NWA Ireland thing.
Yes.
And Fergal was in fucking New Japan. He had just started in New Japan at that stage, so I really wanted to go to a show just to see him wrestling. But I had messaged because I couldn't figure out the fucking website for the New Japan thing. It was really sort of like non-English speaking friendly or whatever like that. And so I messaged the NWA UK NWA Ireland thing about just if they knew what shows Fergal was wrestling at. I think I got one mail back and then they didn't respond to me. So
Okay.
yeah. But I would have loved to. I had a ticket for a Noah show, but I had to go to Osaka on the same day. So.
Right. That would have just been so interesting. Can you see yourself ever going back there? I haven't heard you talk about it in a long time.
Sorry, yeah, I'd love to eventually, but like I don't really have time to go over on like a holiday or anything like that again, or just to mess about.
Just to mess about.
I'd love to fucking mess about over there though.
Would you? Now you'd be going back over as big time filmmaker, big tall Shaun.
Big guy on the big guy.
What would they call you over there? Big Daddy Film.
Big Daddy Ryan.
Oh yeah, that's what you've kind of been calling yourself that for a while. Actually,
I haven't. You know, that's something that I've tried to live by. You know.
Will we do Raw?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Monday Night Raw from. You okay?
Yeah.
Monday Night Raw, watched by Neil and or young Michael Hayes and Big Daddy Ryan, from Tulsa, Oklahoma. So as we said, there was a giant talking segment at the start. We had Michael Cole reminding us that the anonymous Raw general manager was in charge. He was at the podium. He'd received an iPhone text message that for some reason is the ringtone of the laptop or the email, as it were. And before you could really get into it, Cena came out, and Cena went over and said, "Oh, we've had enough of this before," and he almost fully closed the laptop. Did you notice this?
Yeah, I loved the way he closed the laptop though. It was like he was going for a pin on it. He was working closing the laptop.
I have a theory on this.
Yeah.
The reason he didn't close the laptop fully
is
because at the end of the segment, Michael Cole then went back to read what was on the laptop.
Yeah.
And they probably didn't want to risk Michael opening the laptop, turning it back on, and entering a password.
Yeah.
So that's why only
that was probably it.
Would you? I really think that's it.
Oh, Jesus.
Fucking hokey cokey. Could they not just set up no password?
Yeah.
I tell you, this fucking company. Anyway, so Cena just went on forever before the authority came out. Well, Seth
or even
his
shot
two
it
lads.
from the front or something like that, just to.
Yeah, they completely exposed it.
Yeah. Because I definitely remember seeing it open still. I was like, sort of strange, you know?
Yeah. So the crux of this was just Seth berating Cena. And they just had so much back and forth. I can't even remember much of it. If you do, please let me know. But the crux of it was Seth asking Cena to reinstate the authority. And then Cena got in the ring and said, "You better ask me nicely." And they played off this whole thing where Seth basically licked Cena's arse and said, "Would you please reinstate the authority?"
Yeah. I just don't know. Like, because I know he's sort of like that snivelling, sort of cowardly heel or whatever like that. But to have him like losing that much or giving that much to Cena just made him look pathetic, I think, you know? Yeah,
there was no need for that. Seth did bring up a few interesting names as potential Raw hosts moving forward. He said Dave Bautista, who was already really bad at acting and wrestling, so he might be good at this. And he brought up Eric Bischoff.
Yeah.
Would you read into that at all?
No, I wouldn't. I'd say that's just something for schmerks.
Cole then got back up on the podium and said that there was a tables match for TLC announced between Cena and Rollins, and if Cena was to lose, he would no longer be the number one contender. So then basically we had a brawl where everybody came out. You had Ziggler, Kane, Luke Harper, Ryback, so on and so forth. And when all was said and done, we had Cena go through a table, and Ryback, Cena, and Ziggler versus Harper, Rollins, and Kane announced, and Luke Harper versus Big Show announced for the rest of the show.
I thought that was decent that they just went through all the feuds like that, though, you know?
Yeah. It's very formulaic at this point, though, when they do that kind of stuff. It's like, I come out, and then you come out, and I come out, and I don't know. Then we had just, as baffling a segment as possible, we had Tag Team Turmoil for no apparent reason. And this was to announce the number one contenders for Miz and Mizdow at the pay-per-view. Oh,
yeah. Did you see they've changed the name of the pay-per-view?
From TLC?
Yeah.
To what?
It's tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs.
Have they actually done this?
Yeah, it's all over WWE.com. They've changed all the branding of the pay-per-view and everything.
To accommodate Luke Harper, Eric Rowan and Big Show in a stairs match.
Yeah.
What's a stairs match?
They can just hit each other with the stairs, is it? Which I think is great. If that took over for the chair, at least you're getting away with hitting people in the face with it.
I suppose.
Because it looked more impactful than sort of dodgily hitting someone in the stomach and then having to hit them in the back.
I don't have high hopes for the match. Anyway, this was just outrageous for the simple reason that a New Day were the second team in, going against Gold and Stardust. In fact, they were the first team in. And they'd announced they were going to debut on Raw last week on Raw. They said this week, but in fact they debuted on SmackDown. They won. They did a rock paper scissors, which looked botched.
It was odds and
evens, which is a game we don't play over here. Yeah. So Kofi.
Do they play it over there?
Well, I don't. Not well. So Kofi and Big E were in, and they bet the Dust Brothers pretty handily, in fact, which is kind of sad. Then we had Cesaro and Tyson Kidd, who are not a team, beat the New Day.
It was through nefarious means, though, wasn't it?
But man, would you do this on Raw?
Look, tomorrow's a new day, you know? That's what their gimmick is. They lose and always come back again.
They lose and they stay hyped.
That's it.
So your man has no future.
Unless he's joined with them, which, that's money.
Token white.
That is money.
Would you put him, what's his fucking name?
Mojo Rawley.
There you go. I don't know. I don't even know what to get. Is this just maybe they wanted to bring them in and see how it went, and like kind of like Kurt Angle, and then they probably
obviously have no hope for them whatsoever. I thought Xavier Woods was great.
You don't think that this could be the start of a heel turn or something
for them?
Yeah.
No, they seem like they're going to be like the Too Cool.
Jesus, at least 2 Cool 1 matches,
yeah.
Sean.
I can imagine them dancing at the end of matches and all that sort of stuff.
Tyson pinned Kofi with a roll up. When Golden Stardust caused the distraction. And then we had the Usos out. They beat Cesaro and Kidd. And then we had the final team in this tag team turmoil, Adam Rose and the Bunny, who have the exact same gimmick that Miz and Mizdow are going to have in 2 weeks' time. And it was very, very quick. And the Usos became the number 1 contenders for the tag team titles after beating Adam Rose when he and the Bunny had some crossed wires. Backstage, Naomi was watching the Usos, and we had Miz walk up and hand her a card of a producer in Hollywood saying that he'd seen her music video and he thinks great things of her.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
This was like literally the best thing in the show because it felt like it could go somewhere.
Yeah. Well, when he comes out during the match and smacks him or whatever like that, I thought that was unbelievable.
Yeah, but like, think about what you're saying. Like, this is the best thing on a 3-hour show.
I know, but like that's because it's like in a big pile of shit, you know.
Absolutely. Next week, Seth Green was announced as the host of the Slammy Awards.
Yeah.
This is kind of why I was sad Brock wasn't coming back, because if you could have done something with him and Seth,
that would have been brilliant.
Yeah,
that would have been brilliant.
Could have killed him dead.
Like, it just goes to show where they're at. That's the sort of big star that they're bringing in, and that fucking Cable fucker. What's
Larry the Cable Guy?
Oh my god!
Look, Sean,
the get her done lad.
What is he?
That's what he was saying. Like, get her done. That seems to be his thing, isn't it? And then the cat thing.
Oh, the cat was like. What's amazing about the cat thing is, and I could be way off on this, but I felt that the cat thing was bigger a while ago. I felt that they had like missed.
That's long gone. You know.
Yeah. And was the cat was supposed to be sedated as well?
Yeah, but it was like for a TV movie or something like that, wasn't it, with the cat? That's why they had him on, to promote that. It was like cross promotion with the network.
I didn't know that, and that makes sense. They were doing a movie with the cat.
Yeah, like a Grumpy Cat Saves Christmas or something like that.
Well, I hope it was a bit more lively in the movie than it was in the show. You never know. This could be the end of him. Like, he's been in wrestling now. He's been treated.
I'd say he is dead. I think it's probably just animatronics at this stage. Like a taxidermied animatronic cat.
So did you actually think it is the corpse of the original Grumpy Cat?
I don't know if it is even the corpse of it. You know, it's just part of it, made just the skin.
Will you look into that for us?
I will. I'll check that up.
In a new trend that happens over the last few years of starting a feud by having a match and then announcing it for the pay-per-view 2 weeks later, Big Show fought Eric Rowan.
What is the story with Eric Rowan's music?
It's right. Let me tell you something. Right? I think I've got a good propensity for remembering themes.
Yeah.
You know, like if I ever go on those quiz sites and I do themes where the guys from the WWE Parties Ireland, and they do stuff in the Woodshed. I do pretty well in those rounds and stuff. 3 weeks in, when I hear his theme, I still have no idea who it is.
I think it's Kenzo Suzuki coming back.
Shaun, you have to put your head over your heart sometimes, okay? This was a nothing match. Big Show used the steel ring steps on Rowan. And now we have TLCS, as you've informed us.
Yeah, terrible.
Backstage we had Vince arriving for his podcast interview tonight with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Renee interviewed him.
Which I thought was fine, because Vince Russo was going mad about that. And he obviously doesn't watch Raw, because he was saying that's how they opened the show on Raw.
Jesus.
With Vince McMahon coming out and saying that he's really excited about his podcast with Austin after Raw, and then never showing up again on the show.
Well, it's not the first time Vince Russo's been completely out of his mind.
Oh, Jesus.
We'll talk about him in a moment. We do the podcast review. Fandango defeated Jack Swagger via forfeit when Swagger no-showed because Zeb was backstage on the ground in a very narrow hallway. Yeah. This was the worst acting I've ever seen in my life. Jack was like, Zeb, what's wrong? Zeb, what happened? And even Zeb couldn't save it. It was horrific. After the break, we had Rusev and Lana in the ring. The Cunningham program and America being disappointed and the usual.
Yeah.
And then we had Jack Swagger come out and he beat up Rusev and they broke up. Why again?
I have no idea. No idea.
Is it just a case where they want to keep him strong until Mania?
I think Rusev is like the best face in the company, though. The his most compelling face story in the company, like with turning Daniel Bryan heel, coming out and making him try read the Pledge of Allegiance, was it?
Yeah.
And then he stops, and I was like, yeah.
Saving his woman from embarrassment?
Yeah, I thought that was amazing.
This old fogey was...
I've no idea.
Spitting in her face.
I've no idea what makes him a bad guy other than the fact that he's a Russian man.
And he likes Russia and doesn't mind telling you about it.
Yeah, but that was at the start. Now it just seems like everyone trying to stick the big America dick in him. That's what it is, though. It's insane. He's just having to deal with, like, racism and prejudice in the workplace every single week.
So you don't think that we're going to get Rock and Rusev and Mania?
No, I'd say Cena.
Yeah, I'd say that's a fair shout. Damien Mizdow defeated Fernando via submission with the figure 4 leg lock. It was very, very quick, and the crux of this was Jimmy Uso coming out to defend Naomi, and as Shaun said, this was his favourite thing on the show. So what I think, and maybe they can't really do this in PG or WWE, what I think might come out is that he gave her the card of an adult film producer.
No.
No. And he was like, are you fucking kidding me, man?
If that's what it came out as, that'd be amazing. And that's why he was pissed off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I don't think it's that. Okay. But I hope they keep that up, say, with even them doing, like, coffee and stuff like that. And then you can set up it all with, like, Naomi going, like, oh, no, he's actually a really nice guy. Just give him a chance.
Oh, yeah.
And
you're thinking now.
That sort of stuff. I think that there's legs there.
Definitely. Bray squashed Word Truth. The basically was just this went on very long. It felt like it went on very long. It was all a lead into Dean and Bray. He just basically was calling out Dean, and he finally came in. The two fought around the place with chairs, ladder involved, and Dean knocked Bray Wyatt out of the ring and then destroyed the rocking chair. Now, this was something else. This was the first time that we ever saw Bray Wyatt like affected by something.
Yeah, it's his urn.
It's his urn. And Michael was like, oh my God, it's the rocking chair. They've never, ever once said that this chair is significant.
No. But it's in all the promos. It's part of his character, I suppose.
So are you okay with this?
No, I think it's really silly. All of it is. It's all really silly. But it's what they're given. Like, I definitely think that they've made huge mistakes with letting those two get physical and diluting the feud or whatever. They should save all their fighting for the pay-per-view or whatever like that. And they could have definitely delved into the whole dad storyline an awful lot more or whatever like that. Like, he hasn't brought out Dean Ambrose's dad, or anything like that, you know.
One thing,
or even gone into the prison to do like. Say like a interview type thing or something like that, you know.
Who could they get to be Dean's dad?
Just get an actor, like a withered old. What's that guy with the crossed eyes who's gone mad?
John Belushi. No, what's his name?
You know the cunt I'm talking about.
What's his fucking name? The guy who's on Legends House.
Yeah.
What's
his name? Yeah. Is it Nick Nolte? It's not Nick Nolte.
What? Gary Busey.
Yeah, Gary Busey.
No, wait a minute.
That's who I'd cast.
This is
This
this is not going to workshop because people know who Gary Busey is.
They'd suspend disbelief. They'd suspend disbelief enough.
They barely got away with it when they had Bunkhouse Buck and Jack Swagger's dad. I don't know. I just bring back Bunkhouse Buck. Let me tell you something. I agree with you, right?
Been campaigning for that for too long.
I agree. You have, for sure. I agree with everything you're saying, but
Except Gary Busey.
Except Gary Busey. But in terms of having a brawl, I thought they bet the shit out of each other. Looked really good.
Yeah.
Bray looked really good. He's landing it in. He's pumped after that interview with Austin. Bellas versus AJ. And we had an app plug going throughout the show about who would be AJ's partner. And because she was already in a segment, being a complete babyface, Naomi was selected out of an option of 3. I think it was Alicia Fox and Natalia. So it was the Bellas against those two. AJ and Naomi won the match when Nikki tapped out to the Black Widow. So this feud must continue.
Yeah.
AJ's been in the title picture for 9 months.
It's I don't mind. I just think AJ's perfect for the title picture, but that whole feud with the Bellas thing is just absolutely diabolically bad.
We still haven't had Brie tell us why it's all cool de la now.
Yeah, you don't need to because they don't give a shit about it. Why should we?
And Nikki doesn't. Nikki still treats her badly as well.
Yeah, what I think and even going back to the first Punk podcast thing, the way Vince looks at women fighting or whatever like that.
Yeah,
they're missing such a huge cash cow to capitalize on the whole Ronda Rousey thing or whatever, and to push the female division, I think, in a huge way.
I'd agree.
I definitely think they should have let AJ Lee and Paige had a Hell in a Cell match.
Sure.
That was a huge mistake.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
I at the time though,
but for introducing that
feud.
sort of more violent style to the female division, I think a Hell in a Cell match would have been the right move.
I don't like our chances of getting that with Vince in charge.
Oh, definitely not.
Not
Definitely
at all.
not.
Backstage, we disagree on this. We had Mick Foley and Santa plugging WWE Shop. This is unlike 2 years ago when Del Rio ran over Foley and they never acknowledged it was Foley, even though he gave Del Rio the mandible claw at the end of the show. But here he was being acknowledged as Mick Foley.
Yeah.
And even though he was pretending he wasn't, and his daughter Noelle, who was very interesting and would like to be a part of the WWE, was there. And they had some clever, witty banter back and forth, doing a few metaphors here and there, trying not to reveal their identity. I think I like this more than you.
Yeah, dreadful. Just shite filler.
But Mick was entertaining.
I think it was just, I'd say pure, and I think it's strange that they put him in the Santa gear and all that sort of shite, and I don't think they promoted the documentary that he's a part of.
It's actually true.
And that's why he was dressed as Santa, I presume, to promote that.
I think Foley loves Christmas so much that if they just ask him, will you be Santa on TV, he'd be like, of course.
Is that because he smashed his brain so much?
He has smashed his brain.
Yeah.
What did you think of before Hell in a Cell when he came out and he did that?
It was all right.
Yeah. He was trying to be fiery, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he's had that for years and years and years.
No. I think his back and forth with Punk was good.
I find that most of the stuff he does, it's his thing to do that shouty thing now. He can't do a promo without it, but he doesn't have the passion or fire in him anymore. It's been bet out of him.
Michael Cole interviewed Paul Heyman. We talked about this earlier. Paul was absolutely fine here as usual. Another thing that kind of adds fuel to the fire of Undertaker being involved was that he talked about who Brock could face, and he mentioned Sting and Undertaker. So I don't know. I can see when you look at the Big 8 for Mania, who they have, I could see a lot of those spots still being interchangeable at the moment.
Yeah, well, I think, say, you have Hunter Sting, you have Cena, Rusev.
Yeah.
You have, let me see, Reigns, Lesnar.
Uh-huh.
I don't think Taker's going to wrestle.
You don't think Rock's going to wrestle?
I don't think Rock's going to wrestle.
You don't think they'll do anything major with Bray or Ambrose? They can't do Bray and Ambrose now because they've done it already. No. That would have made sense, actually, for Mania.
I have no idea what they're going to do with either of them.
Yeah. Will Sheamus be back by Mania? What do they do with Bryan at Mania?
If he's back, will he be back?
Yeah, I think so.
Then probably Bray. Him and Bray.
Again?
Tossed them in together, yeah. Because, I suppose Bryan lost to Bray at the end of their feud, didn't he? He never got a win back.
I've never thought, of a proper match for Bryan at Mania.
Yeah.
Except for him and Lesnar. And I know I'm in a dream world, but I wouldn't be too surprised.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, I wouldn't be that surprised.
Well, I imagine, say, okay, so they do Reigns and Lesnar. And if Rollins is going to cash it in either on, I'd say, at WrestleMania or the Raw after.
Yeah.
I'd imagine if they're going to do Lesnar Reigns again on the Raw after to have Reigns beat
Lesnar again
in
and
front of everybody, then
Sure.
after that match, you have Rollins come out, cash it in, so then you have the feud with him and Reigns from then on.
Yeah, that could definitely
That's
work.
perfect. Say like, oh, he's gone through 2 matches with Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
What more could you ask for?
Yeah.
John Cena, Dolph Ziggler, and Ryback against Seth Rollins, Kane, and Luke Harper. It was about 25 minutes long. We had Ziggler pinning Harper pretty much out of nowhere. It was fine. We had Big Show run in then, and so the heels had won over before Rowan made the saves. Second time in the show that they did this.
With his did his music play again?
Oh,
There?
it's absolutely Sean. So then we hold on a minute. I'm missing something. We were completely missing. I'll just finish this up. I think Rowan hit him with the steps again, and he stood up. Blah blah.
Bullshit.
Now we've talked about something serious. I can't believe we've missed this. We talked about Rowan a lot. This backstage interview with Rowan that they did.
Oh, where he's a genius.
He's a genius, right?
Yeah.
So he's a what's the name? It's like a vinery, a vineyard. A vineyard, is it?
Yeah.
Basically makes wine, award-winning wine, mind you. And he's a guitar hero.
Yeah.
And he's got an IQ of 140.
Yeah. Unless they can show him doing these things, I'm not
You
buying
see,
it.
yeah.
Because
It would
all they've had him do is hand an already finished Rubik's Cube to somebody.
Did you like that little sleight of hand
What?
off camera that he was doing it, and then he put his hand down? And they
I just thought it was done from the get go. I didn't even pay
he's doing
attention.
it, and he drops his left hand down, and so they obviously did the bait the little switch, and he came back up. But it would make sense him wearing the full bodysuit if they tucked his pants into his socks and had him stomping on grapes.
Like, I think if his celebration after he won a match was like a bucket of grapes gets brought in, he starts fucking stamping on them. That's money.
He could do the Godwin's gimmick where he actually brings out a half smushed bucket of grapes as his schlop.
Or even if like he's a villain character and he makes them drink his wine so they're inebriated, so he can get the upper hand and win.
You could do it after the match, a la Teddy DiBiase and the money.
Yeah.
So the end of every single Rowan match is somebody getting their stomach pumped live in the ring.
Look, I'm all for that.
Yeah, I'm
all for that.
But in all honesty, this was very hard to take.
Yeah.
This man's a genius. Because
Because he was living in a swamp a couple of months ago.
This doesn't make sense, like.
Yeah.
And then Tom Phillips said to him, "Why would you go after the Big Show?" Okay, so essentially what Tom Phillips was saying was, you've got all these things going for you. Why are you in professional wrestling? That's actually what he said.
That'll completely fuck the mystique of, say, like the Wyatt family then as well.
It doesn't make sense. Like, what are we supposed to believe? That he was really good at stuff and then he got brainwashed by Bray Wyatt?
And Bray Wyatt said in an interview there that the Wyatt family aren't broken up type thing. So does that mean that they're going to go back into the Wyatt family?
They are broken up because Luke Harper and him aren't friends anymore. Luke Harper and Rowan, that is.
Yeah. But he was saying that like that's going to happen, that they're going to get that out of their system and then we're going to get back together type thing.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Bullshit.
Okay, last section of the show, we're going to look at podcasts. We'll save the two big ones till the end, will we?
Yeah,
okay,
sure,
let's talk about everything else. I don't know what you've heard, so we'll go through it. Speaking of Bray Wyatt, part 2 of his interview with Steve Austin was on podcast 1. Did you listen to this?
I did.
What do you think of both of them?
I think that Bray Wyatt's great or whatever like that, but I just think that he's been told by so many old timers in the business that he's sort of lives the gimmick and all this sort of stuff and all that sort of jazz, that I think that he does play up to it an awful lot, that he's saying that's him. I don't know if that's him.
I think it is, in a way, and here's why.
All the weird shit he says.
I do. Okay, I think that he's a byproduct of his character in the sense that he's into the weird shit now because he feels that he needs to study for the character, right?
Yeah.
But I always felt, and Claire will back me up on this, because I watched that series of NXT with him in it, and then obviously when he came up,
I can't really remember him as Husky Harris except that he looked like a big baby.
he did look like a really big baby with really bad hair. But when he would do promos, which was a rarity, but when he would do them, he'd have this really weird laugh.
Yeah.
And like he'd have this nervousness about him, but he'd say really weird things, right? I remember thinking two things. I was like, one, he's actually mental. And two, I can't believe that over scripted, super micromanaged, incredibly produced WWE is letting him say these really weird things.
Yeah.
So he was always kind of like that. And Aust actually said, I went back and watched some of the Husky Harris stuff and I saw glimpses of, and so did I, So I think his personality is, he does seem like a weird cat,
Yeah,
as Steve Austin would say. I thought the interview was good.
Yeah.
I know if Ken was here, he'd just bury it because of the Jericho interview, which was terrible. You know, it's just it really made, like, Jericho having him on in character during their feud.
I didn't hear that.
It was one of the all-time worst. Let's see as well. And then we had Austin do a show where he talked about being at WWE before the interview.
Yeah.
He didn't really give away much. I think he said, like, he was talking to John Cena for a while, and he was talking to Road Dogg. Was there anything of note out of this?
Is this to Bray?
No,
because he kept on bringing up Cesaro to Bray.
It was the Thursday one. It was the Thursday one where he talked with Ted Fowler about, they both flew in. He was talking about he said the story about they were backstage with Cesaro, and he was trying to show Cesaro the mule kick, and Cesaro moved out of the way and he kicked Cesaro in the shin, and he said Cesaro didn't flinch. Like, I would pay all the money I have in the world to have a clip of that.
See Austin in tennis shoes kicking him in the shin.
Kicking Cesaro.
Amazing.
I can't put into words how much I love Steve Austin.
Yeah, I just think, like, the fact that he's like a complete alcoholic as well is amazing. Because at the start of that podcast, was saying it was he was with his wife and he started trying to bring up about how, like, he doesn't actually like the fast-paced life in LA and stuff, that he'd much rather be out here in the country. And then it cut to, say, him and your man Ted Fowler. It's like, well, we've been drinking the last 8 nights together. So I think it's like he just wants to move down to the ranch and just get fucked all the time.
He does, and he obviously has this inner turmoil about it, where he'll talk about, he's like, well, I move on to the IPAs because I'm trying to get back in shape. It's like a constant battle. It's like, I don't think Steve Austin eats bad at all. I think it's a constant battle between a beer gut and him, like, being happy wearing a shirt of any colour.
I just think their relationship seems so strange, him and his wife as well.
Yeah, it does. I don't know what it is. It's a weird one. Like, she's obviously completely different to the other 3 broads he married, you know?
But she seems more like a carer than a wife or something like that for him.
Yeah. So that was Austin. We'll talk about his main podcast now in a moment. Piper had Ordy Reynolds on.
I don't listen to Piper's one at all.
Okay. He had Ordy Reynolds on, the co-author of Death at WCW.
Yeah.
And it was pretty good. Piper never wants to get into a ruckus on his show with his guests. He's very much like, oh, baby Jesus, I love you too, and all that shit. And he pretty much agreed with everything Ordy had to say about why WCW folded.
Yeah.
The one interesting thing of note from the show is that Piper disagreed with the idea that him and the people who were main eventing should have moved over earlier.
Yeah.
And he's right in a sense. Like, I don't think the argument, and I don't know if you agree, is that they should have just had Hogan and Flair and Nash and Hall put all these, like, put Eddie and Benoit and Booker over
Billy Kidman
all the time. Well, that's when it got too far, and they did do this drastic stuff. But it should have been a case where they were elevated to a point where it just became
gradual, and then it becomes a money match with these new stars fighting these big stars.
Basically, what they did with Savage and DDP.
Yeah, well, I didn't really watch a lot of WCW, so like.
Okay, so they did exactly what you said there, and what you would do. You know what I mean, and what they did with Bray and Cena, for instance, and stuff like that. And so for a little while, it feels like he's a main eventer. And DDP then got actually relegated back into the US title picture by '98, but in '97 he had a very prolific feud with Savage, and Savage put him over like $1 million, and they gave DDP a lot more mic time, and me and Ken have talked about this on the show. There was a point in '97 where DDP was as hot as Steve Austin. Or at least he was the most comparable thing to Steve Austin in terms of a new star rising in that company, as Steve was in WWF. But Piper was kind of like, who was there? So let me ask you that. You didn't have to watch enough WWE to know the landscape in terms of, in 97, 98, let's just do 98, because obviously 97 they did good numbers with those guys on top, and then it kind of started to feel stale. Who would you bring up in '98? Who would you bring up and keep special in '98 in WCW?
Well, I don't know, because I think that WWE really made like Chris Jericho and those lads.
I think he could have done something with Jericho.
Yeah, well, like at the same time, I still think he had a long way to go. You know,
before
he would have been a main event. But like in WCW, I think it's a different scale completely to WWE. Like in regards what a star is.
Sure.
You know, that I think, say, Goldberg, like, he's not really much, you know, he's just like say nearly everyone that WWE tries to create, I think, you know.
Sure, but he had enough that he felt like he was something.
Yeah.
Like everybody talks about, should you have broken the streak? Should you not have broken the streak? Not when they did.
Yeah.
But I agree with you in the sense that he wasn't.
I don't think like he could have lost the streak and then been all right after it. I think what they should have done, because he had the streak through winning the world title, had the world title, and then you turn the streak into a heel thing that he's cheating to keep the streak then.
Okay.
So you're making the fans want to see him getting defeated then.
Yeah.
You know, that rather than never wanting to see him lose, you know, that then you make a superstar out of someone off Goldberg as soon as you think he's done.
Sure.
So,
and inevitably then the streak breaking is still as huge. And
Yeah.
people would want it then. So you're turning the streak into... The streak becomes what makes the guy to what the fans want to see break the guy.
Yeah.
That's an amazing idea. We don't have a time machine, my friend. But I watched the start of Sin. So Sin was January 2001. And what I'd forgotten about, right?
Yeah.
So Goldberg loses the streak at the end of 98. And then in 99, he punches the limo and he's injured. I could be getting my timeline wrong. That might be 2000. But anyway, in between him losing the streak and Greed at the start of 2001, he is injured himself and been out for a long time and turned heel and turned back babyface in 2 weeks. At the start of Sin, they mentioned Goldberg keeping the streak alive.
There's a new streak.
I forgot they tried a new streak. So what we do, it's like, well, if we put the NWO back together...
They gave him sort of like a Jose Lothario fucking... Whatchamacallem, your man, the colonel or the sergeant from...
from the power plant.
Yeah. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit.
I would recommend to you and the listeners that Piper's one is worth it this week.
Yeah.
Jim Ross had...
with that R.D. Reynolds lads, the Vince Russo one as well.
Oh, God, yeah.
Which was like the worst.
Yeah,
the absolute shits.
Me and Ken talked about this.
Yeah.
But you felt the same. I said to you, we spoke earlier, that I was legitimately angry after it happened. Like, I was in a foul mood. It dictated my mood.
Well, you're listening to a fight where one side is completely in the wrong and they have complete control of the situation, you know?
Bingo.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
He didn't have any legs to stand on with it,
bro. Audie. They're going, I like you personally, we're friends. I'm very disappointed you're laughing at me. No, Audie, you are laughing at me. Amazing. Jim Ross had Bob Holly on.
Yeah.
This is one of those interviews, Sean, where somebody has something to plug.
Yeah.
So they come on the other person's show. And what they don't realise is that this is definitely a forum for them to plug their thing.
Yeah.
But the hour allocated to the interview is not supposed to be a 1 hour advertisement.
Yeah.
So Bob Holly keeps forgetting stories and saying, well, it's in my book. Bob Holly keeps going back to his book. It's like, my book. It just, it never got into a flow. And Jim Ross has his good days and bad days anyway.
I didn't understand his thing as well that he said, what was I want people to know that I'm not like my character on television.
Okay.
And I don't get that because, like, say, the character on television or whatever, I don't know what that ever was. Like, he was just carrying...
He's a bully.
But I think he was actually a bully, though, you know?
Well, everyone says he was.
Tough Enough type thing and everything like that.
So did you listen to this?
Yeah.
Okay,
I did.
all right, okay, excellent. So I guess that he's been interviewed a lot because his book's been out for about 6 months now, but... The thing that I took away from it was the Tough Enough thing. He had absolutely no remorse about the Matt Capitelli thing. Yeah. And he tried to say, like, this is what happens and stuff. Yeah. It's like, no, it's not. I've never seen, besides him and William Regal getting into it on that SmackDown, I've never seen people just beat the shit out of each other like that. Or one person beat the shit out of somebody else taking advantage. And it's part
Bradshaw.
of the day-to-day.
Like, but that's even against the grain then as well.
Yeah, it's just like, you know what I mean? Like, it was the equivalent of Bradshaw and the Blue Meanie without the blood.
Yeah, definitely.
And the fact that it wasn't on a pay-per-view and Matt Capitelli didn't have the name value, and I use that term lightly, as the Blue Meanie. But come on, I'm being unfair. Like, people know who the Blue Meanie was. Yeah. You know, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Yeah, you know? Yeah. And he was wrong to do it. And, like, Bob Holly's, I think he's an interesting character. His book is good. Yeah. But I think that
I didn't hear the bit. I didn't listen to the bit. They were going to get into something about... was it they had some fight during the Brawl for All thing? What was that about?
He had criticised Jim Ross about the Brawl for All because a lot of people cite the creation of it to Jim Ross, which is partly true. And Jim Ross just basically said, yeah. The one thing Jim Ross denies, so the story is that obviously Dr. Death Williams was like Jim Ross's very good friend. Jim Ross had lobbied for Dr. Death to come into the WWF for a long time. Dr. Death was making so much money in Japan that it was only when he got a bit older that he was like, okay, I'll come in now. And story goes that Jim Ross and whoever else, maybe Jerry Briscoe, pitched the Brawl for All with the idea that it would put over Steve Williams really strong because he's beating these people for real.
Yeah.
But it's incredible that Jim Ross goes on about fundamentals. We'll talk about Austin and Vince in a moment, and Austin saying to Vince during the podcast, Jim Ross is the best wrestling mind out there. Why he's not working for the company? Okay, fundamentally, and yes, it was 20 years ago, and he's been in the business twice as long now than he was at the time. But the idea that you're pushing something as a fight, then what's everything else that's happening?
Yeah, I know. I don't think that has a place in it whatsoever, because I think that people get shown up then, and like
and they did
the illegitimacy of actually pro wrestling.
And they did. And the last guy, I swear to God, you go back and you watch that, and you watch the year leading up to the Brawl for All.
Yeah.
The person you see on TV the least is Bart Gunn.
Yeah.
It couldn't have gone worse for them. The best thing that happened to them was...
I don't know why they just didn't work the fights.
Well, the best thing that happened to them was Butterbean killing him.
Yeah.
But then it makes everybody look shit. If this guy bet all your guys, and then this fat ass can beat him...
Yeah. Well, I think that was at a time when there was like that sort of blue-collar boxing was on telly and everything like that. They had a show
UFC being taken off pay-per-view as well, so it was a very hot topic.
But they had a show on MTV at the time where it was like, I think, fighters or whatever like that in boxing matches against each other and all that sort of stuff.
Okay. There is actually, I don't know if it's Daily Motion or on YouTube, but there is the full Brawl for All.
Yeah.
Like it spanned like 3 months as well, which people forget.
I wasn't watching like wrestling at that time, so I just think like
I was
Yeah.
I was very young, and I was unbelievably confused.
I think I dropped out from, what was it? Like after I didn't see 13. I didn't see WrestleMania 13, and then the next WrestleMania I think I had back was WrestleMania 16. Like watching it full time type thing.
16?
Yeah, I didn't watch WrestleMania 15, but it was in that year. In that year that I had gotten back into it.
Okay. Jericho. He had Chris Slade from AC/DC on. I'm not going to go on about that, but if you like that stuff, it's interesting.
I just never listened to his music podcasts.
The start of this though did have Punk.
Did it?
It had the Punk chatter, which he alluded to. He did an internet video about it, and he just spoke about the idea that he never actually asked Punk to be on the show recently, and he was never going to talk about it. And he actually, in terms of the way he handled it, he handled it pretty well.
Yeah.
Where do you think he would have mentioned it? Like, do you honestly think Jericho, okay, let's say Punk had texted him.
Yeah.
Do you think Jericho would have said on the air, he would have revealed anything of those details? I don't.
No, I think it's like Colt Cabana was the perfect forum for Punk to do.
No, but what I mean was like, if Jericho texted Punk and just asked him, like, how you doing? And Punk had texted him back.
Yeah.
And Punk didn't text him back because he says he felt that Jericho had an agenda.
Yeah.
But let's say Punk did text him back. Can you see Jericho going, oh, by the way, I did actually text CM Punk, interesting conversation with him. Obviously, I'm not at liberty to talk about it. Do you think he would have even done that?
No, but I think that, say, with the amount of anxiety and everything that Punk was feeling about all that sort of stuff, he seemed to be very paranoid about everything. But, like, he'd look at Chris Jericho as a WWE guy.
Sure.
As a head of, say, like Colt Cabana and Paul Heyman, people who he had real connections with as opposed to people who he just had good matches with.
Yeah.
So I think that it's like completely within his rights not to talk to someone who he wouldn't really be friends with, you know?
Yeah, I guess Jericho's argument is that they were friends and he was never going to use it to his advantage.
I suppose, like, yeah, and that like just brings up the case of, like, say, who Punk was just getting along with their type thing as opposed to being, like, close friends, which is horrible, I think, you know, because you obviously had a relationship with him. Yeah,
I just think that, I don't know, I it's a weird one. Like, after hearing what Punk actually did feel, what he went through, I always thought, like, him not texting Jericho back was because he was just so angry and bitter and stuff, and he's not. Like, we'll talk about it in a minute.
Part of it probably scared as well, you
think
know?
So?
Yeah, well, I think, like, the whole thing, it seems like he's gone through an awful lot emotionally about the whole. I think he is, like, a sensitive lad.
And he'd probably want to just not, you know, enter into this conversation with somebody over text, obviously. I guess Jericho's, again, to play devil's advocate, Jericho was saying, well, I just was not even asking about wrestling. I just wanted to see how he was.
Yeah.
So, but look, if you want to cut yourself off from people, that is your right.
Yeah.
Jericho then had Neville and Zayn on, and this is my favourite Jericho show.
I haven't heard that.
This is the best show they've ever done.
Really?
It's the two of them together. They're clearly best friends. They've great stories about coming up together. They got football banned backstage at NXT, as in like soccer. They got it banned because they had an incident. And then Jericho told a very interesting story that never came out. He said that a few months ago he was going over his match with somebody, and fuck if I can remember what wrestler it was. Mike Chioda was playing football with I think Primo or Epico. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but basically they were just throwing the ball to each other, and somebody threw it and it went right in Jericho's eye. And supposedly Jericho said he lost his mind, and like him and Chioda, he had Chioda up against a wall and stuff. And he's like, I have to go to the fucking doctor now. And Jericho said like he was in the doctor, and Jericho never gets injured as we know, really. And Jericho was like, I'm in the doctor because somebody threw fucking football at my eye backstage. And that's amazing. But so that was actually really good stuff from Jericho for once. But Neville and Zayn, they're excellent. Sami Zayn just comes off in terms of
so likable.
Oh my god, that's exactly what I was going to say. In terms of just somebody who, when you listen to them, you're just like, I not only would I like to, but I could probably hang out with this guy and have great banter. Right?
Which is perfect what they need for, like, say, their Cena type face that they want.
You mentioned it earlier. I think he has Daniel Bryan appeal in the sense that
and he's a bigger lad as well.
He's a bigger lad, and he probably will have a little bit more confidence. Like Daniel Bryan's almost like kind of too shy sometimes. Yeah,
definitely.
So they came across great. Just talking about Sami Zayn's background and like how he's like he's Muslim, French Canadian, looks like an Irishman. Whereas they talk about the paddy cap he has backstage and how Tyson Kidd robbed it and he was looking for it for 2 days, and Kidd came out with his hood over it, and when he revealed that he had the paddy cap on. And talking about Hunter and what it's like dealing with Hunter, and they talk about
Hunter seems to really like all those lads.
Yeah, he loves it because he feels like this is his generation. These are guys he's got in.
But it's crazy that he's only bringing in like the best wrestlers in the world.
What a novel concept! Let's bring in the best wrestlers.
But like, what's the future going to be then? Like, they're probably going to get loads of bodybuilders as well that they can bring in that the lads can just bounce off and stuff. But
I don't know if that's it. Maybe you just need a few Tyler Breezes and a few Enzos, like, just people who can talk. Maybe
you're bringing the size down of the entire roster in regards to, say, like beefy cunts. Like Rusev is the beefiest lad they have.
Rusev isn't that tall either. Right?
I know he's tiny, you know, but he's a monster.
Physique as well. It's very small compared to the others. Yeah, no.
Compared to those lads in NXT, whenever he'd be wrestling them, he'd look like a fucking huge fucker.
He would. No, he did. Yeah, no, he would. It will be interesting because they do need to, obviously, you know, as long as Vince is there, the
spectacle still has to be there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that would be my podcast of the week. Besides, obviously, the ones that are, I think they're in their own little universe. So we'll talk about them in order. First, Vince and Austin.
Yeah.
They went an hour 15. They went over the allocated time.
I thought that was cool in it. Although I'd say it was probably...
You think it was worked?
Yeah.
I don't think it was. I think Austin was literally like, I have to wrap it up now. And then Vince was like, it's fine. And Austin did... I thought he was a bit scatty. I thought he was worried. I don't really know where to begin. One thing I'll say is, before we talk about Vince's answers to certain questions, I think Austin did very well, considering Vince was very closed off. I think about halfway through, Austin got him comfortable when he started talking about like his dad and stuff. Austin, and that's the ultimate sign of a great interviewer. If he completely he got him to let his guard down, he didn't. I don't think he was great on the follow-up questions. I think that he asked the hard questions and then he kind of just accepted the answer. But there were times when Vince would give answers and the director would focus in on Austin, and Austin looked so angry. Like Austin,
especially with the pro wrestling thing, you know.
That was the ultimate insight into Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Within the first few minutes, Steve Austin mentioned pro wrestling, went to correct himself, and before he even could, Vince said, "It's not pro wrestling. That's what my dad did."
Yeah.
You know, he's serious daddy issues.
Definitely. But I think like he's like say just. Like, I don't understand, because he's obviously, like, stepped out of his father's shadow and made, like, a huge conglomerate.
But he thinks the only way of stepping out of his father's shadow is doing stuff even beyond wrestling. I think.
But that's... Like, if you look at what it was before he took over, he completely revolutionised everything, you know? And that's... Like, I think the... what was it? The... Fuck. Oh, drawing blank.
Okay. If you think of it again, let me know.
Yeah.
He said stuff in regards to the roster after Steve Austin questioned whether they were hungry enough, and he was all over the place with it. He said, you know, they're walking around on eggshells and they don't want to piss anybody off, and he just goes, well, don't piss anybody off. And then Austin said, but what about me? And Vince kind of alluded to the fact that Austin was very hard to deal with at times. But he said, without me pushing the envelope, we wouldn't have got to where we were. So it's kind of like, where's the balance there?
Yeah.
Vince didn't have an answer for that. He brought up Cesaro, and this has really done the rounds now. And Vince said, there's something missing there. And he doesn't have the answers, he said. He doesn't know what it is. Would it be changing his gimmick 7 times in 2 years? And would it be having him win a Battle Royal at WrestleMania?
But I can sort of see where Vince is coming from as well, that he obviously... I just think he probably doesn't feel comfortable with someone who's accent and everything like that, because I heard Drew Galloway talking about saying Vince was saying that he couldn't understand him and everything.
Oh really?
Yeah, so he was having to go and get elocution lessons to speak English.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so
was that on Colt's show?
It was on Colt.
Okay,
it
cool.
was on Colt, yeah.
What else did Vince say that was interesting? Okay, so Austin obviously brought up CM Punk. He said, do you want to talk about Punk? And he said no. Now obviously they'd gone over this because the director banged, there's a picture of Punk in the back screen. Okay, so this had been cleared.
I'd say most of the questions were cleared. I'd say nearly everything was probably cleared before.
They had quite a few. They had quite a few pictures.
Because before, they knew the way they were going as well. Before they went into talking about Vince McMahon Sr., in the wide of the two of them, they were on the topic prior. It had obviously gone on, and there was a picture of Vince McMahon Sr. in the background.
Oh, it preempted the question?
Yeah, they go back to the side shot, and then when they get into the Vince thing, it comes back out, and then you see it.
So they did have a running order.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd say Vince was well aware and had his questions or his answers.
Yeah. A lot of it was the corporate speak. Yeah. So he said that, basically said that he apologized anyway for Punk.
Yeah.
Receiving his termination papers on the wedding day, and he said that it was, he said, how did he put it? He said that the
communication between legal and HR.
That's it.
Like that. Yeah. Which is complete and utter.
Yeah.
Tosh and tipsy, isn't it?
Very well put. But he did seem upset. Vince is a very good actor, though. Basically, he finished by saying he would like to work with him again and iron things out. And we'll finish the show, and we're going to give our predictions on that. Okay, so don't let me forget.
Okay.
But I'm trying to think other things that Vince said that were in any way. Obviously, Austin never asked him about the medical aspect of the Punk interview, so that was interesting. Again, they compared Austin to Punk in many ways about being upset. That led into the conversation about Austin being asked to job to Lesnar on TV with no notice. Austin said in the preview to this interview that he was going to ask who made that decision, but they never really got there. And I don't think it was Austin's fault or he was reticent to do so. I just think that the conversation got to a point where they just kept going and going and going. Am I forgetting anything from this interview that you'd like to bring up?
I don't because the main stuff was just the CM Punk stuff that I was looking out for, and then all the other stuff where he was sort of saying about the roster not living up to what they could be and everything like that. I just
is that good that he said that though? Because that would give them a kick up the arse.
It's like obviously I think that's what he was hoping to get out of them, but at the same time I do think that for people who've bought the network or whatever like that, like that, at least they're the people who are seeing it, but that podcast is going out, and if he knows the promotion isn't at its strong point and stuff like that, that's terrible. It just I don't know. I just don't think they know what they're doing. To be honest.
No, he was also asked about the network, and he said, it's got this 90% success rate. It's just not true. I said to you
that should have gone into if it wasn't a piece that had been completely sort of worked out or whatever like that, I think they would have gone into that a lot more, or they should have gone into that a lot more if it was a proper interview or whatever. Like the network is like the biggest thing. It's like XFL or
absolutely. What did you think of Vince overall? How did you think he came off?
Like a very old man.
That's the one final thing, I guess, is that he kept reiterating he wasn't out of touch, which simply means that either he knows he's out of touch or he's aware of the criticism he's out of touch, or both.
Yeah, well, he was saying he doesn't listen to the critics or whatever like that, but I don't know who
he's talking about people who write newsletters.
Okay, well, he's not talking about people who'd contact the company and say they're unhappy about,
as in stockholders,
like everyone. No, I'm talking about like fans and stuff like that.
No, because then that's people. Well, it's just
because I think it's really easy to sort of wave stuff off as any sort of, that's just criticism, or critics or whatever like that.
Yeah, but then again, he kept saying he listened to the fans, and I guess the end of the interview was just a train wreck where he'd been talking about how social media is so big, and then Steve Austin said, "Well, how do they get in touch with you?" And he goes, Vince McMahon on Twitter. And Steve Austin asked, is there an email address? And he said, excuse me, that's my phone. And he said Vince McMahon on Twitter and... apologies, and we're back. So he just looked absolutely mortified, like I am right now, about the idea that he couldn't give Austin an answer to this. And when Austin brought up Twitter, Vince just rolled his eyes, which I just found so funny because, you know, it's just so hypocritical. A lot of things were hypocritical. Vince came off... I think if the Punk thing wasn't a hot topic, I think he would have come off well to a point, even though there's still a lot of bullshit there.
Yeah.
Would you like to see more of these?
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's probably the most entertaining thing that the network could put on is, say, real accounts of things with the superstars who are currently in it as well, you know.
That's exactly
and
it.
then it can be just used as a tool to build feuds, especially if it's the reality era.
Sure.
Or whatever like that, and they have nothing to, say, point towards why it's the reality era other than having a successful show on E.
Yeah. And which he actually never brought up.
Yeah.
Okay, so finally then we had part 2 of Colt on Punk now, or Punk on Colt. Now this is completely different to the first interview.
Yeah.
There really wasn't much out of it. He talked about like the Slim Jim stuff and how it's a weird one. Like, if you take both interviews on their merit, it seems like he was actually more angry about backstage issues with him being allowed to do stuff more than he was with the creative process, in a sense.
I don't know, because I was thinking about it, and I think that, say, I'd listened to like Seth Rollins, say, on the Jericho podcast, I think it was, and he was saying that like you'd walk in on Dean Ambrose and he'd be watching some wrestling from the 50s or something like that. There's a mad passion for wrestling, whatever it is, you know. He's probably just delighted to be where he is, and he wants to like reach ahead, but I can't imagine him ever walking out or anything like that because he's delighted to be a pro wrestler.
Sure.
Whereas CM Punk is someone who's much more, say, objective based. That, you know, he was like, I can be the best at this type thing, or
and if I'm not going to be happy.
Yeah. Well, like that, he always wanted that main event of WrestleMania. It was ever something like a pat on the back for saying, okay, you're great type thing.
That's definitely what it was.
You know, so like, I think, say, if he's not going to get that, then the best thing is for him to walk away. Because I thought there was a lot of stuff in the podcast, especially the thing with the WWE, the computer game, coming out, and them saying they wanted CM Punk for the cover.
They wanted Sheamus.
Yeah, and they wanted Sheamus or whatever, and that he got sent an email. I don't understand why he didn't walk out then or then. There was another occasion as well where it was was it Slim Jim or was it one of them? Yeah. And they were pushing, Rey Mysterio, Big Show, and
Torres,
got the deal instead of him. If you look at those things, I can completely understand, you know.
Yeah, well, I don't think he walked out then because he has a really big passion for the industry, just like Dean Ambrose. I think, though, it just got to a point where, you know, I think he got so obsessed with the main event of WrestleMania thing that he actually, and with everything else, that I don't think he was able to appreciate what he had. And I think it'll be a long time before he appreciates that, whether it's doing the job or not, the fact that he was in programs with Undertaker, Rock, and Brock is an achievement. It is an achievement. Now, you can argue, and he will argue, who should have gone over in certain aspects of it, but there's very few other people on the roster. When I say very few other people, there is one other person on the roster that could have done that, and that's John Cena. Yeah. And John Cena did work with two of those. He didn't work with Undertaker. Triple H couldn't have done it. Triple H and Brock felt ridiculous in a way. Triple H and Rock would feel pointless.
Triple H and Rock.
Yeah, I think it's like you'd rather see Rock.
Love to see that.
Do you not think there's a few more? Rock only has a certain amount of matches.
I think that's such an underrated feud, though. I think it was huge for the company.
It was absolutely gigantic, right? But the fact of the matter is that, you know, it's been done so much, and I think you only have Rock for a certain amount of time. Yeah. So you want it to be either, I don't know, like
I don't know who's there that's ready to go.
Well, Rock and Brock is very much it.
Yeah.
That would be huge.
That's massive.
Either way, I think that, you know, Punk will look back and kind of understand that he did do really well, and he shouldn't see it as a failure. But this was supposed to be a questions and answers thing, and they suppose he got no good questions, really. They got really silly questions.
Why is the Shield always wet?
Yeah. He also mentioned that instead of chanting CM Punk at AJ, he should just chat. They should just chat.
Yeah,
AJ.
I agree with that.
Absolutely fine. He said there were projects coming out, yada yada. There wasn't much to take from it, but it's definitely been very. And he
it
said
felt like closure, though, more than anything else, you know. And
he said it was very therapeutic. The first one, The main news coming out of it, though, was that he just did not accept Vince's apology at all. He said he only accepted if he was called. And he said that the timing's very interesting, and they did it as a publicity stunt and all this stuff. And it's just, is it impossible to disagree with him?
No. I think that's fair enough. You know, like I don't think that the apology is genuine whatsoever. I think it's damage control.
Sure.
Because he could have rang him or texted him, but the sort of lackadaisical way that he approached it, in texting him 2 weeks later and going, "Are you ready to work? Ready to come back to work?" Yeah,
it just kind of fops him off, doesn't it?
Definitely. It's bullshit, really.
So, I wanted to touch on this in closing and find out, do you think he's going to come back?
Yeah, definitely.
When?
Not anytime soon. But
no?
Or depends now. Say with NJPW having their own network now, and them saying that they're number 2 in the world, but wanting to be number 1 if they can expand. I think, like, if you can put American commentary over that is exactly what you can sell to the masses now, because it's so close to what UFC sells.
Sure.
In a physical, strong style wrestling stuff. I think, like, CM Punk in that would be the perfect
to get American fans on board.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you have those promos.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Okay, now he's come back to WWE, I guess, being more specific.
I'd rather see him go to, like, NJPW.
Wow. Okay.
I think, because I'd love to see them do well, you know?
Sure. I would be fascinated to see if he came back to WWE. Because it has to be the sweetest deal.
Yeah. Well, like, as soon as they get, in any way, sort of like American, I'd rather watch their shows than watch WWE shows, because, like, sitting through Raw or whatever with the idea that we were going to do this, to make sure that I was to watch it, like, it was just like, this is, like, dire, you know. Usually I would, like, sort of half watch it or whatever like that, but I was watching it just going, I can't believe they're putting this on television for 3 hours every week, you know. It's just, like, absolutely insane that they think it's entertainment. And
for those of you out there, and I know you exist, that use this to recap Raw rather than watch it yourselves, you're welcome. It's a tough old job. And Shaun, we'd love to have you back again to do it.
I'd love to.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, definitely. It was brilliant.
So do you have anything that you want to, like you can't remember the exact Vimeo account or anything like that? Like, just
no, I'm delighted. Like, I want to do this again.
Okay.
Again type thing. You know?
Okay, not a problem. But we're always wanting to talk about your stuff, you know?
You're a sweet guy.
Got to get them spots in.
Gotta plug my shit and do my gimmicks.
Got to do your gimmicks. Okay, well, listen, thanks everybody for listening. Myself and Ken will be on the radio this coming Sunday talking UFC 181. That's 4 o'clock on 103.2 FM. And we'll be back next week with This Ain't Fake Brother on Thursday, as usual. So until then,
fuck her right in the pussy!